Okay, so we've got a lot to talk about this week. And first and foremost, it is very important that we address an issue that has, I've tried to ignore it. I've tried to pretend that, it's just gonna, this is just the talk of the day, and the pundits will have their chance to speak about it, and then it will pass. But no, it just keeps coming back and keeps coming back. So we have to address it. And that is, what is the correct way to hug? That is actually the question of the week on the Facebook page. If you want to chime in, you might want to hit pause and do so now before you hear me give away the answer, the one truth, the absolute on all things embracing. Okay, here's the thing. There is a movement in the kind of New Age spiritual community to be very enthusiastic about something called the heart hug. Anyone heard about that? Heart hug is where instead of going the traditional embrace, you go opposite, so that it's heart to heart. And I think that's an adorable idea. That's really cute. And if that kind of stimulates you in a way that feels good, that's fantastic. If anything that makes your connection to somebody feel more solid and full and rich and lets your ego dissolve into a we experience, yay! Here's where it gets to be a problem. More and more people, I'll go in for a hug and they'll like, no, heart to heart. And so like, I've begun my descent, landing my heart into this pillowy softness of embrace, and they go, let me correct you and tell you what's wrong about what you're doing. Now let's have love. It's like, if you want a heart-to-heart hug, that's fantastic. But here is my suggestion. Receive the normal hug and then say, let's do a heart-to-heart. And they go, what? And you go, well, that's why we do it this way. And that way our hearts are more aligned and it feels more whatever it feels like to you. To me, I like them both. I don't feel any more magical connection when I go heart-to-heart than when I go traditional. In fact, if the heart-to-heart is done with any abrupt or education or scolding, it often feels less comfortable because now someone's concentrating on how they do it right as opposed to feeling the connection. What drove me to actually address this as a topic was that somebody contacted me and said, hey, you're a big hugger. I wanted to let you know that what someone let me know at this concert I just went to about the right way to hug, and that a heart-to-heart allows the hearts to do this, which I'm like, yes, that's okay, I've heard that. But then they said, and actually, when you go the traditional way, your livers touch, and it's toxic. And and then they went on all these reasons with chakras and things of why a traditional hug was this toxic bad thing, and I was like, what? Okay, that belief is toxic. If you are going to assign something bad and toxic to something as wonderful as a hug, there's nothing good about that. If you believe something is bad, it is. If you look at a Twinkie and go, I hate myself, it's going to make you fat. It is, your mind makes all the difference. And so if you go, oh no, I'm hugging wrong, you have just taken the most beautiful, pure, wholesome act that a human being can do, and you've started dropping cyanide into it. I know it came from a good place. The bummer was the person that they were educated by someone that in their mind was an evolved, this yogi, this teacher, and so they actually felt embarrassed, that they didn't know the right way, and so they felt scolded. They hugged, the right way, and then felt like, oh, I don't want, I need to help educate people. And so when I turned back and said, you know what, actually, I think that both hugs are beautiful, and I don't think that there's such thing as a toxic hug, and I think that belief is toxic. They were like, oh my gosh, I can't believe that I've been spreading this. I'm so sorry. You're right. A hug is beautiful. I went online and looked at some pictures of Amma, the hugging saint, to see, does she, I would think that she would be authority on toxic hugs. I doubt a woman who has healed this massive population of the planet with her embrace would not be doing so with her toxic liver vibes. And so I looked, and she seems to hug people whatever, this way, that way, most people pulling to her bosom, which is close to her liver. I'm sorry, I'm trying to make a little fun of this, but I Hug Nation began as nothing to do with a physical hug. It had to do with the idea behind a hug. A hug is when two people embrace, when you let your ego slip away for that moment, when you just sink into this warmth, this vibration of a we, and you just sink into that person, and you project love into them and receive the love from them, and it is the most pure, beautiful expression of our inner divinity. And over time, because people associated me as the hug guy, people started seeking me out for hugs and saying, oh, and making a point to give me hugs, physical hugs, which 10 years ago I was no expert in. Over the years, I feel like I've gotten to be a pretty solid hugger. And the things that make a good hug versus a great hug, I think, is patience. Way too often, we feel like there is you squeeze and let go. And that is a beautiful thing. But what makes it a magical thing is when you kind of sit and hold. Even taking a breath is a really amazing way. There is no right way to hug. That is the trick answer to this question of the day. There is no right way to hug. Anytime physical touch is making you feel closer to somebody, that is perfect. If the physical touch is making somebody feel uncomfortable, if it's making them feel encroached upon, or if it's making them feel like they don't know what they're supposed to be doing, then it's not quite as beautiful an act. So I love the heart-to-heart hug. I love the heart-to-heart movement. I love the idea of people like going, ooh, here's a new way to hug. One of the cool things about the Hug Deli is that it's got all these types of hugs, and sometimes people will come by and say, hey, do you guys know how to do the cinnamon swirl? You know how to do the whatever it is, different ways to embrace. Of course, there's the comical ones like the gangsta hug or the long uncomfortable hug, and those are silly and fun. But the cool thing, I think, is when people say, do this, start with a finger and then swirl around and then do this. It's like, any exercise in physical touch that allows us to connect is beautiful. And if any masters of chakras and yogis and people who are against traditional hugs, want to give me reasons why the traditional hug that has been an expression of connection and love for most people's lives, if they want to make an argument of the problems about that, I'm open to listening to it. As always, I'm only expressing my understanding of the universe at this stage in time, from this lifetime, and at this stage it is so clear to me that I will take a hug upside down, backwards, from the left, from the right, one-armed, nose kiss, whatever it is that allows the mind to slip away and the bodies to express oneness. Let's just go straight into the Hug Nation hug with that. So now let's have a symbolic hug, a representative hug, and a hug of intention. So wherever you are, grab yourselves by the shoulders. I would guess that in some circles this would be considered a wrong way to hug. But in our minds, as we let it slip away and we let our hearts lead the way, we allow the intention of connection to be what leads us, to let our egos slip away and fall into the oneness of all present in this moment, all present in this vibration, all present on this planet. And as we sink in to become aware of that divine light inside us, become aware of the times when it gets covered up in our personality, become aware of when we also get tripped up with the personalities of others, but knowing in this moment that all of those interactions are one of bright light to bright light. And whether we approach them with words whether we are caught in a pattern of misunderstanding or confusion, or whether we open our hearts fully and embrace them from the left or from the right. Every interaction is that potential for divine connection, for growth of ourselves, of the other, and of the vibration of the entire cosmos. So for in this moment, let's let that light shine from us. Let's feel that light shine from everyone else. Let's take 3 breaths in that pulsing, beautiful oneness of that light. Inhale. On behalf of Grandpa Caleb and all the amazing huggers around the world, happy Hug Nation. I love you, and I look forward to the next time we can hug with intention or in physical body. You are a gift. You're walking your walk is a gift to us all. I'm so appreciative. I love you. Namaste. And I don't mean to be overly critical to anyone who is of the mind that the heart hug is correct. I just, I finally got my limit to, I just felt like I don't want hugs to be a right or wrong thing. I don't want to be judged on being bad. I mean, unless I'm grinding my crotch against someone and they're, uncomfortable, that's wrong. If I'm picking people up, actually that's wrong too, now that I think about it. I would say if you pick somebody up without asking them, that's a wrong way to hug too. That's kind of a show of power, and like you're showing that you can control a person. They're helpless as you hold them. Now if you ask them and it cracks their back or something, that's a gift. But to simply lift somebody up and dominate them non-consensually, I consider that to be a wrong way to hug. So I guess anything non-consensual. So I guess, in that sense, if you don't want your livers touching and someone tries to touch livers with you, that's a wrong hug. But I would say if the definition of hug is one thing and then you don't want that, you want something different, you should call it something else. Or you should... Now one thing that people do actually, and I do like this and I appreciate this, is when people that want a heart-to-heart hug, sometimes they will approach you and they'll overemphasize. They'll exaggerate their approach so that they don't correct you, they just kind of come in so that they lead you gently into the hug, which if you're gonna heart hug, I think that's a good way. If you just want to try to avoid the stopping mid hug, there's certain things that when you're in the middle of it's painful to stop. That's what they call, when someone stops you mid-hug, it's called blue shoulders. Oh wait, blue, I'm sorry. I should not have gone there. The Raging Word says, isn't the heart technically in the center of your chest? Huggus Interruptus, says Matzog. Yeah. And that's, I think I don't know. The last time I cut open a human being, I was so freaked out by all the blood that I don't remember exactly where the heart was. Did I just say that out loud? I'm kidding. They were been dead for hours.